Hello, I'm Eileen Roach, and welcome to today's episode of Between Friends. I'm so glad you joined me for part two of the quilted jacket. Today is a little different. Last week we talked whole cloth jacket, and this week we're going to do one that features blocks. So if you are about ready to tackle the quilted jacket, let us know in the comments. And if you know someone who wants to tackle a quilted jacket, of course, quilting with your embroidery machine is what we're talking about here. Invite your friends, would you please? We would love that. And I see many of you are joining us from all over. Sigrid over in Germany, thank you so much for joining us. And Barbara George in Florida. Hi, Carol. Nice to have you here. And Arnell from Illinois. It's just fabulous to see all these people joining us from all over the US and frankly the world too, right? We never know on what side of the planet someone is tuning in from. And let's see, there's Retha Ranke. She's almost always the first one to arrive. I'm so impressed with that, Retha. You're always on time and you've been using your monster hoops all week. Good girl. Me too. I've been doing a lot of stitching, that's for sure. So we are going to talk about, well, first I'll do the reveal of the jacket that I showed you in pieces last week, right? So let's see. First, let's talk about the two products that this episode is brought to you by. So if we go over to PowerPoint, I'll let you know that, oh, well, let's see. This is the jacket we're going to be talking about today. This is the one we talked about last week. And then we'll just go overhead and look at the finished jacket. That's what we showed you last week about how to get to that part. And now it's complete. So I opted to create my own facing and for the front opening and of course the neckline. And then that way I can actually add buttonholes and buttons or whatever kind of closure, I want to add. I use the Tamarack jacket pattern, and I'll show you a slide of that in a moment. And they suggest using hooks and eyes that join like right at the center front, like no overlap, or there is an allowance in the pattern to do an overlap and then add snaps. Well, I'm not a super fan of either of those techniques, but I will do buttonholes. And I actually do my buttonholes on an embroidery machine. But didn't it come out just beautiful? I wish you could feel it. It's so soft and comfy. I mean, when the weather is cool, it is just going to be my favorite jacket to, wear all the time. And if anybody knows me, I'm often in a sweatshirt. I'm kind of a cold person, so I love having this. Now, when I made this jacket, I told you that I did a muslin first. And since I'm not a tailor by any shape or means, I didn't make that muslin close fitting to the body. I left, maybe 2 inches of ease on all the pattern sections. And that also allowed my quilting to go off the edges and I wouldn't have to worry about skinny areas. And then I seamed the right bodice and the left bodice to the jacket back at the seams only. And then I threw all those pieces, this one big piece that is then seamed at the shoulders and both sleeves. Now I had finished all of my pieces on a serger, so I didn't have to worry about raveled edges. And then I threw it in the wash and I let it shrink up so that it was, that's what we love about the quilted jackets, right? They get that texture, they kind of bubble up inside all of that quilting, right? So this is where the loft of the batting is, lifted between the stitches. And that's what makes these quilted jackets so cozy, so comfortable, and just love it. So let's see, Michelle M is asking, what is the lining fabric? This is Moda Grunge, just the beige, and really it was a fabric that I had in my sewing room, nothing that, I went and purchased specifically for the lining. Now, if you wanted a jacket that went on smoothly, right, like think of a suit jacket, a silk suit jacket that would have a polyester or rayon lining, then you wouldn't layer your outer fabric and your batting and your lining. You would just quilt the batting and the quilt top, and then you would add the lining unquilted so that it hung freely. But that's a whole different class, and that's definitely not my area of expertise. So don't look for those instructions from me. But I'm so glad you like it. Thank you, Creative Appliques and Jackie Cheek. You say it's beautiful. It really is. I wish you could feel it. It's just so wearable. And that was my goal. I wanted it to be really wearable. So let's talk about I have a couple things going on here. Oh, have I lost my slides? No, here we go. So in today's class, we're going to, again, talk about pattern selection, because that's where we always start on a jacket. Is you need to have the right pattern, and then the blocks, the fabric, auditioning, all of those things, and then the quilt designs themselves, and then how to quilt the jacket, right? So today's program is brought to you by the Perfect Alignment Laser #3, and also the hoops are still on sale. I know many of you took advantage of it last week. Well, they are still on sale, both the Monster and the Sticky, and I'll be showing a Sticky a little later on at the end of today's program. So if you have questions about that, then we can look at it there. So the first step is the jacket pattern. Now, last week I told you I used the Tamarack jacket by Grainline Studios. You can just do a Google search and find that pattern. You can purchase it as a download, which is what I did, and really very good instructions. You get all the different sizes. She even has a thorough instruction, step by step, on how to tile the pattern, because you're going to have to piece, it's like 20 pages that you'll print, and you'll piece that together to, for all of your sections. You can also, in the download, there is a print shop version of the pattern. So if you want to take it to a printer and allow them to print it on a wide format printer, you could do that. But I just did it at home because it was probably 11 o'clock at night. So that's how I roll. Okay, blocks. So I chose, let me see, what did I do? I chose 2 blocks pretty much exclusively. The Sawtooth Star on the left, and then also just a basic 4-patch on the right. And I kind of, there's a lot of blocks that you can choose from. And I wanted something that was going to introduce a little bit of color, like 3 different colors. I didn't want to have a wide variety of colors. So that's why, these were my 2 choices. So let's see. Esther Hoplin wants to know, is the pattern free? No, you do have to pay for that pattern from the Tamarack pattern from Grainline Studios. I believe it's under $20, so I thought it was well worth it. And she has a video tutorial on YouTube that you can look up, and it really walks you through how to make that jacket very well. Okay, so once you decide on your pattern, then on your blocks, then it's time to select the fabric. And I love the Moda grunge. That's all I can tell you. I love that. So I knew I wanted to use that red, and I started with my blocks, kind of red, white, and blue was my theme. And then I auditioned those blocks on what is going to be the setting fabric. This will be my sashing. This will be the setting block. So it's going to have a lot of presence in the jacket. And, I laid those quilt blocks on the beige fabric, on a blue, and on the red. And then, frankly, I asked our team here at Dime, which ones do you like the best? And so if you have friends that, also enjoy quilting, you could ask them, which one do you like the best? But a great tip to do is, when you audition blocks in this fashion, is to use your digital camera and take a photograph of each of these layouts. And then as you review those images on your phone or your camera, you'll know which one you really like. You'll know for sure. So that's the best way to do that, I think. Okay, then we have to audition those blocks, and we have to pay attention to the size of the block. So really, you would take into consideration your block size, before you get to this stage, right? Because you have to make the blocks. And that I would determine by the jacket pattern itself. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's go ahead and just advance a little bit so you can see. So here are some of the blocks that I made, and they didn't all make it into the jacket, as you'll see in a moment. Most of the ones on the left did, but none of the 9 patch did. It began to just be too much like a race car to me, or Purina pet food, So that was the image that kept rolling in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to leave that alone. So then take your jacket pattern, your bodice front, either right or left, doesn't really matter, and place it on the blocks that are laying on top of the fabric. Now, I haven't pieced anything, just my blocks, but I did measure the width of the bodice to determine how big I want those blocks, right? Because I definitely want the blocks small enough to fit in the width of the bodice, but large enough that they almost fill it. They don't have to, they're not going to fill it all the way, most likely, because, it's not a straight rectangle. It has some shape to it. So, take your time to do that step, kind of measure the pattern before you make the blocks. Then you'll determine your block size, and then place them on, place the pattern on top. So here you can see now I'm making a little bit more progress. And you'll notice on the image on the right, where I have the pattern piece laying on top. In the final garment, I did not have those half star blocks, on the right outer edge. I opted to do just the red setting fabric. Okay, this is what I was working on the sleeve. I thought, well, those checkerboards, they might look really cool on a sleeve. And, you have to remember, sleeves go around the body for sure. Of course, all the pattern goes around the body, but a sleeve, just about a third of that sleeve is really visible on the outside of the arm. The rest is wrapping underneath the arm. So I just kind of mimic this by, drawing some white space around the sleeve pattern itself, what it would look like on the figure. And I didn't really like that. So let's see, Ann Philbeck says, so you would center then more to the front side of the jacket. I definitely did center more to the front of the jacket, and we will do that for sure. Let's see, Ella Bly, how lovely. What a nice comment. I wish you had, that she says, I wish I had all the great dime products. Each year I add a few things. That's a good way to do it. But we do provide quality tools and hopefully tips. You're welcome, Ellie. I feel blessed to share my knowledge with everyone. I don't think it does me or you any good if I just keep it all inside, right? And take that to my grave, shall we say, right? I love what I do. I'm blessed to do what I do. So I'm happy to share it with you because I want everybody to, enjoy this hobby as much as I do. Okay. So I keep clicking off the wrong thing here. So where do we go next? Let me just check my slides because I don't want to lose track. All right. Now the next image is of the jacket back. And here you can see I had a lot of blocks going on, right? So that's a lot of blocks. So if you look at the image on the left, that would be showing that I had a possible choice would be to slice those 4 of those blocks in half and add them at the side seam, right? And everything that you see in white there, the pattern that you're seeing would be in the red fabric. And then I thought, well, we could bring it in all a little tighter, but we'll go to the overhead and I'll show you actually what we wound up doing. But before we do that, how about if you watch this quick video while I get set up? And if you are not subscribed to YouTube, please do. If you don't like us on Facebook yet, please do that. And follow these simple steps to be notified every time we go live on Facebook.
We want to make sure you are being notified every time we go live on Thursdays at 1 p.m. And here's a quick tutorial on how you can set up your live notifications. First, on your home page, click on the search button. Look for us. Click on the 3 little dots on our page. A pop-up will appear. Select on Manage Follow Settings. Click on Live Videos and enable notifications. Make sure they're all set to all. Now you're all set.
Okay, so here we are underneath the camera, and you can see I kind of went off a little bit, and I decided that this area up on near the shoulders would really benefit from some fun fabric that showed some movement and kind of drew the eye into the center of the jacket. So I introduced this really fun, oh, I don't even know what you'd call this, kind of morphed checkerboard, right? And it was awful fun to add to the project. But now you see on the back, I added, one star here, one in the center, and then one down at the bottom. And my offset squares are red that border those stars. And then I did some half blue, and kind of, all of this is going to be underneath my arms when I walk and wear it. So you're not really going to pay any attention to that. Sometimes, like I said, I'm not a tailor. So if I mess up, well, that's the one thing that's beautiful about a quilted jacket. You can always add another strip if you need more fabric, for sure. So wasn't that a fun way to treat the back? I love that. Really, really love it. So let's flip it over, and you can see the front. And here's the lining. So I actually have two different linings going on. On the front bodice, I have this really lovely stripe, which I had intended to maybe be the outer wear, the outer layer of the garment. And then when I said, no, I'm going to do blocks, it wound up being the lining. But on the back, I used another Moda Grunge blue. And that's really because I didn't have enough of this. But, so what? Who cares? But the beauty of using this pattern, this printed beautiful fabric on the lining for the bodice, I could add lapels folded back to expose that pretty fabric. So looks great. It looks really great. Okay, now I'm going to have my pattern piece here, and I'll pull this garment over so we can get this centered underneath the camera. And I just want you to see how I have marked. Let me get this on here straight. That's fairly straight. So I did make two long vertical marks in the center of the bodice. And that helped me make sure that my quilting and my blocks were going to be horizontal, parallel with the garment edge. Definitely wanted that to happen. I didn't want any skewed blocks. And, that worked out really well. And it was just a simple guideline that I used as I pieced the blocks together. Now, here's my rows. This is, row one. Let me get that back under the camera. Here's, the middle row. The first row is up here, and then this, and then the final. And then, I kind of had to fit in a little bit, kind of a mini strip here. This is just a half square triangle, and then another half square triangle there. So this, it's kind of a lot of fudging, but it worked out. It worked out. So, yeah, it's really a fun jacket. I love your comments. Thanks so much. Now, I haven't washed this one yet, but I will probably this weekend. I'm looking forward to that. And I thought I would show you on the sleeves. So on the sleeves, they're not quite finished. I do have some quilting right here at this area. And I added a cuff at the suggestion of my friend Aine McCarthy. She's one of our dime educators, and she does a beautiful job. And so there's just a pretty quilting in here, but it's tone on tone. You can barely see it. And then I just did some channel stitching up to the sleeve head. That's it, not much. But this is lined with flannel, not batting. So it's very lightweight, the sleeves, and doesn't add bulk to my figure when I wear it, which, I like, right? Okay. So I will launder this, and then I'll probably finish those sleeves because they're kind of long right now. So once it's laundered, then that will determine how big it should go. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at some kind of pieced. These are like remnant blocks that I had left over. So I thought I would show you kind of the process, right? So this is skinnier than the actual jacket itself, but it does have my 3 blocks that are the main decoration on the garment. And I most certainly need a half square triangle here, and then another one down here and here. So I'll put that jacket pattern on so you can just get an idea of where this would be going. So when you have this pattern and you mark those centers, this, I just kept laying it on my strips as I made them. And that told me what else I needed to do. So like I can see here, I'm missing fabric. I'm missing fabric there. I'm missing a little bit at the armhole, and definitely up here. Oh, you don't see that. So definitely up here, I need to add another strip of fabric. And you can decide if that's just all one color, or are you going to do a partial block? And, maybe you have a stack of blocks that are, that you are just scraps and you don't know what to do with them. Well, a quilted jacket is a great way to decorate them. So on my garment, when I made my jacket, I made these strips, and then I had my batting, and then I did have backing fabric underneath. But if you're going to do it and you want a freestanding lining, then you could just hoop this. And just make sure that your piece on the top and your batting is large enough to go in the hoop. So I think the next thing we want to do is pick out our embroidery designs. So I'll show you which ones I selected for the different blocks. So I do have that kind of for the offsetted star. I mean, just the plain setting block. Here's one. And, I just kind of digitized a lot of these on my own, so they're not really available for sale. But some of these, well, I actually made all of them in my quilt embellisher. But there, I'm using my print stick target template paper. And I think I have one more. This is not actually the one for this block, but it's close enough. It's close enough, and it most certainly would work. And you can decide if you're going to use contrasting thread or thread that blends. And I'll bring the jacket back so you can see. Okay, so now to hoop, I'm going to remove this one because it's kind of in harm's way. And I'll actually remove this one too. I only place my templates as I go, piece by piece. So as you can see, I have my metal frame underneath my garment and batting. And then I'm going to take my top frame and just place that right sides over. Come on now, behave. I didn't stand that up enough. So I stand it up perpendicular and then drop it in place. And now I am using a rather large hoop for this block, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine. And then I lift this and go to the machine. I would rotate that design so that I'm square. And, if I were at home, not in this awkward position, I would have taken a moment to make sure this was square in the hoop, a little bit more square than it is. And then I'm ready to go. Okay, so let's see. Janice Aldridge wanted to know, my blocks are 6-inch finish like this. So on point, they're about 8 and something. But I actually use the AccuQuilt cutter and the 6-inch cube, if any of you are familiar with that. And that's all the little pieces, all those little patches. That's why they all match so perfectly. I'm so proud of my blocks. That AccuQuilt cutter is to die for. So, and that, so then I would do that one and advance over here, this, and then the whole thing is quilted. So let's bring that hero back out so you can get a better look at the finished product and how fun that is, right? Let's see. So here is, I'll put that template right on top so you can see on the garment itself. Here we have it right here. Isn't that fun? So much fun. Oh my goodness. I had a blast making this. And, I had to do it kind of in a time crunch. I think I'll do this one down here because the other one's hidden by the lapel. But, And my thread choices, I did select beige thread on the beige fabric and a light blue on my navy. So you don't really see that beige thread, but that's okay. You know, that's a background color. And then I did use a beige thread in my offset blocks. And that allowed me to kind of let that pop a little bit and make it all cohesive, you know, beige and the red and the blue and so forth. So, so much fun. And then, you know, once your panels are quilted, then you just proceed like you are working with plain fabric. Yeah. Let's see. Lori W says purple would be what you would have to go with. Oh, I bet that would be pretty. Would love to see that. So Laura Newhouse, I did hoop backing fabric or lining fabric, batting, and the outer pieced quilt top, let's call it, for the jacket. So I did all 3 layers and quilted them, and you can see the inside of the garment. Here, the inside that you can really see here is the blue grunge, and here you can see that's quilted all the way through for sure. And, you know, I didn't pay attention to tie-offs and so forth. And in a perfect world, I would have used blue thread in my bobbin to blend in with the background, but you know, really, I'm not that picky about that kind of stuff. So it was fine. And Janice, Esther, you want to know what kind of batting did I use? Well, I used wool batting. That's what I like to use. I use 100% wool batting because it has a beautiful loft without weight, and it's 100%, you know, natural fiber, so it breathes beautifully. That's what I use. Very, very nice. Let's see. And Mary S. Larson, did I make my blocks in my block piecer? I did not make my blocks in my block piecer. I could have, but I didn't. I opted to just do it on my sewing machine. So, you know, truth be told, but sometimes I do. It depends on, you know, on what I'm doing. Okay, so let's see what else is next. So isn't that fun? Do you think you're going to do it? Are you going to try to do a quilted jacket? You've seen 2 versions now, a whole cloth and the blocks. I don't really have a favorite. I think they're super fun, both of them. Try it on. Well, I could try it on. I will try it on, but you're not really going to see it because there's not much in the camera. But I'll show you. It's pretty. And it'll look great with blue jeans. And I'm going to go to the American Quilt Show up in Branson pretty soon. So see, fits just great, doesn't it? Yeah, and I need some star-spangled earrings. Yeah, I do need some star-spangled earrings. But, you know, I live in Texas, so this is a great 4th of July jacket. But, you know, definitely not wearing quilted jackets on the 4th of July in Dallas, Texas. But maybe if I go to Alaska some year. Let's see. Janice Esther, you have the pattern and the fabric. Do it. You do have to just get going. Give it a try. And, you know, and Marilyn Snow, you say, you wanted to make a quilted jacket, just trying to decide what I want. You know, I spent a lot of time thinking about it too. And then I just jumped in. I'm like, come on, let's just jump in. So, and don't think of it as something, it's not the wedding dress, right? That your photos are going to be taken and it's going to be documenting for like the rest of your days, right? It's a quilted jacket, and you're going to throw it in the wash, and you're going to throw it in the back seat and so forth. So don't worry about it, right? It's just fabric and thread. Have some fun. There's time involved for sure, but you know, it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to use up scraps. I've seen some beautiful jackets out there, you know, on the web that people are having a lot of fun with. And, you know, pattern, if you do a printed fabrics and they just all blend, well, that looks wonderful. And you don't have to worry so much about fit and so forth. I do worry about the bulk, right? You know, I like a loose jacket and maybe one with a belt or so forth, but that's a lot of bulk. I'm a small person. I'm petite. I'm only 5'3". So, you know, I can't do so much. So let's see. Mary S. Larson, did I sew down the lapels? I did sew them down. So here, I'll show you. You know, I did bias binding. And so then I just flipped them back and sewed them down right out here. So they're there forever, which is fine with me. Because, you know, it's not tailored. It doesn't have heavy interfacing inside the lapel or anything like that. And frankly, I wanted to, try it on and see, well, how far back do I want to turn that so that it would be flattering? I didn't want it to go too far back, and I didn't want to obscure so much of my blocks. And also, it's a quilted jacket, right? So if we open it too much, it's not going to function very well. So yeah, it's a fun project. I had so much fun making this. I really did. And I have fabric for another one, but well, it is getting to be summer here pretty soon before we know it. So I don't know if I'll do another one, but it was super fun. If I do, I'll let you know for sure. Okay, so I promised that we would talk about Perfect Alignment Laser because it is the special this week. And okay, so one more question from Brenda Johnstone. How did I finish my seams? On my serger. Let me see. Yep, on my serger. That's how I did it. In the Tamarack pattern instructions, they suggest using bias binding. But to me, that added a lot of bulk. And truth be told, by the time I got to that point, like I'm done. I want to be done with this. That was enough bias binding going around the garment and so forth. I make things so that the outside is pretty, I don't really care about the inside that much. I know, many of us were taught, like if you took home ec, you would fail a project if the inside wasn't as beautiful as the outside. Meh. Life's too short. Life's way too short. So that's why I have a serger. It's all done. And I stand up when I do it. I don't even sit there. I just literally fly through it. You just have to make sure you hold the fabric straight, because otherwise you get new curves that you didn't want. Okay, now we're going to talk about PAL. What are we going to talk about PAL? Well, Perfect Alignment Laser. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Perfect Alignment Laser, but it is we have a brand new version, which is the number 3. And I was wise enough to have one here. So let me clear my mess. If you ladies could see, all you wonderful embroidery friends could see the mess I make here underneath the camera. Okay, we'll move that over out of harm's way. And so here's PAL 3. And what's in it? Well, you're going to get a gooseneck laser. And it has a clamp that fits on a table. And you just open this up. This is 28 inches long. And so it coils, it turns, it curves, and this, of course, it opens to about 2.5 inches maximum. So as long as you have a table that is thinner than this, you can use PAL 3. And it has the electrical component, so you can just plug it into the wall. That's what this piece is. Into an outlet, and you're good to go. So what's so nice about it? Well, because it's so long and tall, you can get a really long beam on it. So let me go ahead and turn it on. I have one already attached and turn on. And so we're not seeing that real well. Let me just turn. I have this great big overhead light here, so just bear with me. It's super bright in here, so we'll just come down just a little bit. And the more distance that you raise it from the surface, the longer the beam. So when I'm down really low, see, I have a small crosshair. And then when I get up, get all the way up, it gets longer and longer and longer and longer. And, that's what's really helpful for it. Absolutely. Really helpful. So I want to show you how I use it for continuous embroidery. So here we have a pretty vase of flowers that was actually done in 2 5x7 hoops. So the first design is the foliage on the top, and the second design is the beautiful vase. Now, this is an open design, right? So if I didn't land this properly, you would probably see the stems of, the blue flowers right in that vase. So it was really crucial that I connected this just properly. So I took this into my software because it's a giant design, and I split it in 2. And then I added placement marks, and that's these little black marks here and here. So you probably can't see it, but you're going to see it in a moment. and they tell me where to land design number 2. So I can show you on here. I'm going to turn this off so it's not to confuse you. Okay, so I'll peel off the template of number 2 so that you can see those placement marks at the bottom of the design. So we have one right here, one in the center, and one on the outer edge. And they are placement marks that tell me where to connect this embroidery design with the next embroidery design. And those placement marks are also on the design number 2, but they're at the top of the design instead of being at the bottom. So I stitched my first design on fabric, leaving enough room for the second design. That's really important. You have to leave enough room for the second design. And then we're going to take my sticky hoop and we're going to stitch the color 1 of the second design, and that is the placement mark. So we have the bottom, the center, and the top. And then I'm going to place that on a flat surface underneath POW, and I'm going to take POW. Well, I'm not going to move POW. I'm just moving my hoop. So see what I'm doing? I'm moving my hoop so that my laser aligns with those placement marks. And this is sticky stabilizer, right? Let's not forget that. And then I just take my fabric. Now remember, this is what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to do this, get these connected. So I already have that stitched. And here's my alignment marks of number 2. So then I just place my fabric, aligning that horizontal beam with the center alignment mark and the vertical beam with the bottom edge of my placement marks. And then finger press that in place. And now I can go to the machine and stitch color number 2, which is the vase, all of the vase, right? And then, it's going to stitch out just like that, just like it did here. So it's absolutely flawless every time. Isn't that awesome? I love POW 2. Love POW 3. Well, all the POWs were great. But now we're on POW 3. He's a little bit more elegant. He's skinnier. And it's just awesome. So let's see. Brenda Johnstone says she just got out her rather old POW and put it together. And she's embarrassed to say that she embroiders things that don't need much place. And that's okay. Don't be embarrassed about that. If you have POW in your sewing studio, you probably will be more willing to tackle challenging projects, right? Because oh, I have a solution for that. So that's why POW is great. Absolutely. Let's see. Sylvie wants to know, is it possible to use this lamp with a regular design and regular hoop for find the center? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can show you that in a moment. But first, I'm going to show you another use for POW that's really handy. And do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I showed you the shimmer and shine, how fun that was? So, I did some of the vinyl, the HTV vinyl, remember? So here's my vinyl of dime. That's that glittery stuff. So much fun, HTV vinyl. So on my garment, this is just a t-shirt. And here, I'm going to unfold that at the bottom so we don't get confused. And I have marked my center with pins, right? You can see that. I have a pin at the neckline, and I was able to find that center by folding the garment, meeting the shoulders together. And, then that fold is where the center is. And now I'm just going to slide that shirt down so that POW is aligned with my center mark and also the underarm seams, right? And so if it's aligned with those seams and my vertical center, I can take my HTV vinyl that I have already, created. And what I did was I folded that in half, and just to mark this carrier paper with the fold. And then I'm just going to align that fold with my beam, finger press that down, and then I can go over to my heater, my iron or my heat press, and permanently secure that in place. Isn't that awesome? It is awesome. I love that. I mean, that's the easiest centering. That laser, I don't have to use tape. I don't have to mark a crease on my garment, which I hate to do that because, you know, then I don't want to try to iron it out after I have the decoration on there, whether it's going to be the HTV vinyl or if it's embroidery. So that is just brilliant. I love that. So then somebody wanted to know, can we use this just for a standard hoop? Pal, you sure can. So let me see what I have here for you. This is scary. Pulling a demo out that we're not really sure, didn't think we were going to do, but we could do it. I'm going to get my hoop mat out because I know on the standard hoop, I'm definitely going to need a hoop mat. So let's see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that mat and I am moving it around so that Pal's beam aligns with that center beam. Not absolutely mandatory, but it does help. Right? It does help. It just gives you reference lines that are aligned and not further skewed. So if I needed to get my fabric absolutely straight, I'll do it this way so I can reach the screw. So I'm placing my standard hoop underneath Pal and making sure that the beam is aligned with those arrows or center marks on my hoop. And then I take my fabric and I'm going to put a Target sticker on here. If you just bear with me for a moment. Yep, I got one right behind me. And now I didn't iron or press this, and this is something that's been hooped, so bear with me. Okay, so now I have my template, my Target sticker in place, and see that beam, how bright it is? And so then I'm just going to place my fabric over the hoop and I'm aligning the beam with my Target sticker. So see how that's moving around? So I am nice and square in the hoop, and then I'll take my inner ring and insert that into the outer ring and insert, nice and firm, tighten that up. And I am dead center in that hoop. Isn't that great? I love it. So that's how you do it. How much of a lip is needed to clip Pal? Retha Ranke, it's 2.5 inches is the table or wood, or whatever. That's what it's going to clamp to, 2.5 inches. And I can, do I still have that lying around here? Yeah. Here, I'll show you right here. So that's the opening. Right now I have it, totally closed, but this swings around and down, and then it will open to 2.5 inches. Yeah. All righty. Okay, so let's see. And Marjorie Hirschberger, if you have PAL 2, is there any reason to buy PAL 3? Not really. They do the same thing. It's just a newer, more elegant design. That's all. They do the same thing. And let's see, Ella, you say the PAL is on the top of your list. It's really worthwhile. It is a great investment. I'll tell you, when I do t-shirts, sweatshirts, I use it for lots of things. When I'm in sticky hoop, I definitely use it. Continuous embroidery, multi-hooping. That's what I'm using it for. So, well, today's class was really fun. Now, I hope you'll forgive me that, these 2-part series on the quilted jacket is kind of like a high overview of how to do a quilted jacket. It's not a sew-along, but I just thought I would share with you how you would attack it if you're going to quilt it on your embroidery machine, which is super fun for sure. So I thank you for joining me today. I know we have On the House coming up, and many of you have been participating in that. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you've been doing. So this week is ladybugs. How cute are they, right? 6 little cute ladybugs all in a row. And they are so colorful. You can stitch one, you can stitch all of them. And they, of course, come in those beautiful, exquisite colors. I hope that you are participating in On the House. And remember, we encourage you to download the On House design every week, right? Because at the end of the year, they're going to go away. So get them now while they're still on our website. They will be there for all 52 weeks of 2023. But it's easier to stay up with it if you just download it every week. And we look forward to seeing you here next week. We have a whole new topic, which I'm not so sure what it's going to be yet, but I know we have lots of fun stuff in store. I think next week we're going to talk, that's right, I'm going to talk about edge-to-edge quilting in a snap hoop monster and how to make sure that when you advance the fabric, you are straight and square in the hoop, because we kind of touched on it last week and there were so many questions. I thought it would be good to go back to that and really walk through those different steps. So we'll hope to see you here next week. Thank you for joining me today.